The decisions of the Metro Human Relations Commission may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the commission. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedure requirements are met. Welcome everyone to our November meeting. Our December meeting. Hope you all have had a good Thanksgiving, and now as we head into the holiday season. To confirm quorum, public comments. Review the minutes for September of 2025 and November of 2025. Individually, okay, so let's go over the September 2025 minutes.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a second. So all those who approve the September 2025 minutes, please raise your hands. It is unanimous across the board. And let's take a look at the November 2025 minutes. If I can get motions.
Second.
We have a motion. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, please raise your hands. Unanimous across the board. Thank you all. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, the financial report.
Financial report is the standard, as you can see, month to month. Crystal has taken on the responsibility of becoming our admin finance person. We're working with finance to create some other lines that can give a bit more detail. Like the third line, educational service, has a large amount, and project management. We want to break those down to make a little bit more sense to you, what those funds are planned for. But generally, as I say, our biggest expenditure is on building, payroll, and salaries, benefits.
Okay, couple of questions. What is project management? And why did it grow so the way it did?
Well,
What's under that category?
everything we're doing, all of our projects, these are outlined by finance, and we've since found out that we can create our own. We can even create for our usage program-specific categories.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Second one, regular pay. Why does it swing so much from month to month? I know we've added some staff, which would explain it, but like it was low in July, then high in August, then lower in September. Like, why does it swing so much like that?
I can only guess. Now, Crystal, do you have any?
I don't have a definitive answer, but I will say this, there was a larger payout around, let me see where it was, around August for Mark's vacation.
Oh, okay.
There was an interest there.
Oh, okay.
And then as for November, that's interesting. I can give you an answer at the next meeting. Or
I
even
assumed
follow up
November was
with you.
because it's not final financials for
Right,
November.
right.
Okay. Okay.
What questions?
I
Commissioner Sloan?
have one last question. I'm to understand that the rent, building, and land fund is just a straight what it costs to keep, that the city ironically takes back from your budget to cover the offices that you guys hold. I meant to ask a couple of months ago, but there's a huge goose egg there in August. And did we just get free rent? I mean, like, is that budget funds that got opened up, or?
No, that's probably a finance
We definitely-
oversight. Because before this year, it was not on our budgets. And we were actually told that it was not part of the budget, but it's actually part of the budget. And the funds that was awarded us this year in our budget, it was inclusive of the rent for the building. which is the first.
But in effect, since it's money coming in and going right back out, it's kind of almost like a pointless line, it seems, which is part of why it grabbed my attention that we had a zero there. I was like, that's weird. So, okay, thank you.
Wait, one more question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Just in general, do we know kind of what the process is and the timing for closeout, month to month on our expenses? It just seems to me that December 1st is really pretty soon to report on November expenditures.
Yeah.
So does anybody know what that process really should look like?
Crystal?
It's around the 15th of the month. Is when the actual general ledger closes out, and then they'll send, well, the report is live all the time, but that's when things are actually on the report, around the 15th, 16th of the month.
Okay, great questions. Thank you all for paying attention to math. I don't. Procurement board nomination, old business. Oh, do we need to accept? No, we've never done that.
Second.
No, it's just a report.
Okay.
I wish we had power to accept the budget or not.
Check this
I went to
wholeheartedly.
theater school.
Moving on to the procurement board nomination, Mr. Raheem Buford, who is with us today.
A few years ago, MHRC advocated for and won a seat on the ability to nominate a person for a seat on the Procurement Standards Board. It's a 7-member board that creates policy around what are the mechanisms for which goods and services can be procured by the outside. And it was right after the privatization of the janitorial services at MMPS. And what happened in the subsequent couple years after that was the general contractor who got the large contract literally tried to hire the former Metro janitors at less pay and horrible benefits, which they couldn't keep staffed. And it was almost like pulling teeth to get Metro to see how if you made it where smaller mom and pop cleanup services could bid on a school. And that ultimately is what happened. They broke that contract down and made it to where Joe and Bobby's cleanup could get a contract to clean up a school. Well, that pushed us even further to issues that often arise in the procurement process that don't really make sense. Like you're doing a $500,000 project, but you need $2 million worth of insurance to do it. When that generally doesn't make sense. And so we were always trying to get someone on the board that could possibly bring those blind spots to their attention. The previous person is similar to Mr. Buford today as being a person who was formerly incarcerated, who by nature are often forced to be entrepreneurs because of, for lack of a better word, felinism that can be a bit of everywhere. So Mr. Buford, whom I've known, actually whom I met while he was still incarcerated 15 years ago or so. He is the person that we have vetted to present to get approved to serve in that position. He's here, his questionnaire is there with you to ask him questions. I mean, I could talk about him, but I kind of want him to talk about himself. You both are proud graduates of American Baptist College. He is a business owner himself. He runs an organization called Unheard Voices that advocates for formerly incarcerated individuals and also helping them to re-socialize after long periods of being caged. I have all confidence that he would represent MHRC in a way that would bring a perspective to the procurement process that a regular, everyday, average Joe without that lived experience could possibly miss. Mr. Raheem Buford. So back to you, Chair.
Welcome, Mr. Raheem Buford. It's great to have you here and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Would you like to make a statement or anything else?
Yeah, well, sure. Well, good evening. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to have me. And I don't want to repeat what Davey Tucker has said. We call him Tuck. But I'm a Nashville native, born and raised. And I just have a love for people who come from places that aren't the best places, but triumph. As he said, I'm a American Baptist graduate. My BS is in entrepreneurial leadership. I've ran the Nashville Community Bail Fund for 3 years. I've been doing Unheard Voices Outreach, executive director since 2021. And yeah, I mean, I'm just a pretty cool guy.
Okay, thank you for that. We don't need personal endorsement right now, but
I like confidence.
yes.
Yeah, just if you could speak to something for me for a second. I noticed looking in through the statements that you generously provided for us about your work with the Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network. And as it's sort of an education piece for me, and also to sort of think through what knowledge you could bring to this table, is explaining some of what the long-term effects are for those under the age of majority who are incarcerated, and then the issues that brings up for folks trying to get their feet on more solid ground later in their life, and how the perspective of your work with that network would inform what you're able to bring to the table for the commission.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And so I think, so ICANN, the Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network, is like a group of men who all went to prison while they were under the age of 18. And over time, they overcame the criminal legal system, that experience, to come home and eventually become leaders in the community. And that work mostly involved removing LWOP, which is life without the possibility of parole, all across the United States of America. So that's the national work, one of the things that I've done. But in this space, from the Unheard Voices outreach perspective, as we talk about young people who go to prison and have to survive a very violent artificial environment with very little mental health care and a lot of faith, of course. When we come home, there are barriers. Tucker mentioned felonyism, which is the legal discrimination, marginalization of persons who were convicted of felonies. Oftentimes, we are not able to get into decent paying jobs. So we have to create opportunities for ourselves, entrepreneurship for ourselves. And those barriers that are mostly government barriers, because of whatever reasons, we create these policies that say if you've done a bad thing in your life, we want to punish you forever.
Right.
So my work helps people transition out. It begins with the parole process, helping their family members advocate on behalf of their loved ones. And once they get out of prison, it's more of a transitional partnership, helping navigate coming home, what that looks like, getting all the resources that one needs. But ultimately, it comes down to economic justice. It comes down to, will they get the same opportunities? Will they get the access? And most of the time, we don't. And in a city like Nashville, we have the opportunity to lead, as we have done in the past, certainly during the civil rights era. And now we have a chance, an opportunity to continue. I've in the seat where previously Larry, which is a great friend of mine, was in, and I just want to, carry that torch and be a voice, and make sure that all voices are heard.
I appreciate that.
I wanna ask, and LT and I are buds, and I love that guy, and something that I've learned through him and through some other experiences is how challenging it is, not just for people with felony record, but minorities in general to get bidding contracts within Metro. That it's very difficult to go through that system or even know where to start. I'm curious about what sort of steps you think the city could take and maybe things you could do with your role on the procurement board to make that process easier.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think the city and the city's leadership, and I'm gonna say on the mayor's level, there should always be someone who is connected to the community in a way that, as we talk about formerly incarcerated individuals, can speak, have an influential voice. Because sometimes we're overlooked, because when you say minority, now that can mean a lot of different things. And I think it's important to be specific, because formerly incarcerated persons, they are the new, they carry the scarlet letters. It's an F now. And if we're visible and our voices are heard, then it removes that stigma, because a lot of people are afraid of people who've gone to prison, who've gotten out of prison. They don't really know that we're just right there in your backyard. I'm a homeowner, I messed up at a young age. And so here I am. And I think that having a place on an official board to speak is the beginning of a process. But I think we need to go deeper. We need to be in elected positions. We need to be able to run for offices, and we need to allow for our credentials and the work that we've done to speak for us, because we are leaders as well. It's just that politically, right now, at least in Nashville, this state, Tennessee, but I don't want to get political. We elected someone with 32 felonies in the White House.
Thank you.
And yet, it's just the truth. But here we are, struggling to get contracts, struggling to get some of the most basic jobs. So just giving us an opportunity and knowing that you don't have to be afraid, because 95% of all people incarcerated will be released. So it's time to just get used to it in a way, but not just like, hey, here I am, we can talk. I'm transparent with any, you can ask me anything, but yeah, I think government, that's my answer, government.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Just a question, Mr. Buford, or anyone else who may want to comment. Does the Procurement Standards Board get involved in grant administration? Who gets grants, who doesn't get grants, what the process is for evaluating that kind of thing? I think I understand, where it's situated with respect to vendor contracts, but is there other stuff? And how might you, kind of contribute to the discussion on that if you join?
Commissioner, there's another office in Department of Finance that handles grants and all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the procurement standards is kind of outlining those standards to the point of Commissioner Patrick's statement of are they easier or harder for minorities? And sometimes it's in the way the standard is put together as it relates to who even applies, who can even be awarded the close to $2 billion of goods and services that go out of Metro.
That begs another question, if you don't mind. Is a person in your position, Mr. Buford, and again, whoever wants to comment, are you able to advocate or communicate, with the community on behalf of those minority populations who may be seeking to land contracts with the Metro government? Or are you restricted once you come into a position like this to just policy and standards?
Well, my work in the community is what it is. It's independent of what decisions will be made on the board. I bring an insight that's different, a justice impacted insight, a community leadership insight to the board. So as the board makes its decisions about who gets certain types of access, I can at least express a point of view that normally isn't heard.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
one
please.
other question. Mr. Rahim, first of all, thank you for coming and appearing before us and having such a well-written questionnaire response. And just as somebody who's done criminal defense myself, I've seen the system take people and run them ragged. And the fact that you spend as much time as you stated here incarcerated, and the fact that you're just even here making this application is pretty impressive just on its own. And I fully support our nomination of you. However, I did want to ask, taking from Director Tucker's statement earlier about schools, I think schools are a good example to kind of bring up for this. I would imagine somebody in your position would advocate that somebody with a felony record is perfectly qualified to provide janitorial services or things of that nature to a school. But I would imagine there will be other people on this board who will take a different view on that simply because children are involved. And people tend to, unfortunately, I think, lose some rational capacity when children enter into a discussion because we care about our children so much. So I know there will be people who would advocate, say, for what they believe is a common sense restriction against people having felonious convictions on their record, working in those kind of environments. What kind of response would you have or persuasive argument would you give back to, say, somebody in that position who would be advocating for something like that?
Yeah, so maybe if I could just answer it in parts. First of all, under Tennessee law, there are certain convictions that are prohibited from not only working in schools, but being near playgrounds and even certain types of restaurants, or even living near a school.
Mhm.
So that's a category that's already been addressed by the law. So now as we talk about, like, I would imagine you mean from a fear perspective, morality perspective. I'm not quite sure because the rest of us, we move freely in society. And the only reason our felony background comes into play is because, there's a scrutiny around getting certain types of jobs, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that people like myself would serve the community well, not only, but talking to young people about choices and consequences and helping them to understand that there is a way to make good decisions where they don't end up like people like where I came from. I'm 10 years home, and I've done more in 10 years than a lot of people have done in their lifetime in terms of graduating from college in less than 4 years actually. And I was released in 2015. I graduated in 2019, summa cum laude. And I gave the commencement speech. My mother was able to be there. And I opened up a pathway for others. Cyrus Wilson came behind me. Same type of thing. So I'm looking at the leadership aspect of it all and highlighting the qualities that we want. If we say we believe in rehabilitation, I would say transformation, what evolution looks like for people who make bad choices. So if people would have problems with that, it makes me question whether or not the country that we're living in is something that, you really want to see evolve. Yeah. Because again, I said, we have a president with 32 felonies, and I'm not saying he's the standard. But what I am saying is that historically, we don't have the best history. Yeah. And I just look at it like this is an opportunity for us to show that redemption is a real thing for those who believe in such a term, and that people do change, and that we don't have to be afraid, because we're not doing anything to young people besides saying, hey, there's a better way than the choices that we made.
Thank you, Mr. Rahim.
Thank you, Mr. Rahim. Thank you everyone for your questions. I want to answer Commissioner Sloan's question too, which is to provide more funding for schools over policing. So that will be my answer to that as well. So thank you for being here. I think we need a motion.
I just wanna say one thing.
Yes.
You have very impressive credentials, and I have absolutely no reservation whatsoever in supporting your nomination. Thank you.
Okay, thank
I
you.
move that we vote to approve his nomination.
Second.
Second. Second?
Yeah.
Those in favor of moving to vote on, to approve the nomination of Mr. Rahim, yes, please raise your
Let's
hand.
vote.
Yay?
Yay.
Across the board?
Yes.
Anonymous across the board. Thank you, Mr. Rahim. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Yeah, thank you for being.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay or.
Yeah, or come back and hang out.
So I'm gonna say this right now is that I forgot to mention this, but if we can't whisper and talk amongst ourselves about Davey because the mic will pick it up, so we won't say it out public. If you would like to stay and witness that openly, then you're more than welcome to stay, but you don't have to. But just a warning to all commissioners that mic picks up even whispers, so please be very well.
May I just say I appreciate the vote. Thank you, and maybe another time. I have another job to go to.
All right, thank you, have a good night. The next item on our agenda is grant updates. Youth Poet Laureate, Southern Word.
I know it says me, but actually they're very inestimable, very competent, and just really spearheading this project is Crystal Cockrell, the Finance and Operations Administrator.
Totally over exaggerating. Hello everyone. Long story short, I'll turn it back to Daniel to talk about the legalities and all that good stuff. But I will give you some background on Southern Word. Our involvement with Southern Word predates me, but I believe we've been working with them for about 5 years or so. If you remember Friendsgiving 2024 and Friendsgiving 2025, we had a poet laureate at each event, and this year 2024 she did an amazing job. But the 2024 winner for this year, her name was Violet Ray PN. I told her I would say her name right. She did a fantastic job. If you came, you should remember she did a fantastic job. So we just support that youth contest. It happens around this time every year. They have anywhere from 20 to 200 or so people, youth that are in high school, come together. They have to write a poem about something that's going on in the community or something's going on with politics, something like that. It has to be an original poem. And then they're offered opportunities. If they win, they're offered opportunities to speak and do the spoken word around the community. Davey Tucker this year is going to be one of the final judges. They have the applications process and their semifinalists, and then the final one will be at Belmont on December 14th. He's going to be one of those judges. I hope he remembers, but he's going to be one of those judges. So we've been supporting that for years, and I will let, as I said, Daniel handle the legal piece. I just want to give you some background on it. Right now, we're circulating documents to support that and give a grant/sponsorship for $1,500. That helps in numerous ways. It can help secure locations for the place and for the students to go and speak for different places, and also for the contest. I don't speak much, y'all see that. But also for the contest, as well as handling food, and it also could help support the stipend as well that the finalist gets. So we're circulating documents now to get that approved. It will eventually, I believe on the 16th, go to council to be approved. And again, Daniel can speak more to that piece. I don't do the legal stuff.
Can I just clarify real quickly that it's the Youth Poet Laureate of Nashville?
From Southern Word.
From Southern Word.
Yes. Benjamin Smith is the president, amazing guy.
Can you tell me, what's the size of the stipend that they receive?
Oh, I'm not sure.
The grant amount is for $1,500.
Our grant amount is for $1,500. But I'll find that out and let you know.
Part of that,
Yes.
1,500 is part of the stipend, includes the
Not-
stipend.
Not this time.
Yeah, oh, okay, great.
Yeah, a little bit of backstory to key up Matthew, who I think is the cause of all of this. There are multiple events that we co-sponsor and support during the year. Celebrate Nashville, MLK Day, Youth Poet Laureate, International Human Rights Day, and I know I'm missing a couple other things that we support. Up until this point, this all came out of MHRC's operating budget. That in the preparation of the budget, we have this number that we allocate to give away. Well, now it's an ongoing debate of whether or not we can continue to do it this way. I know that MLK Day one and Celebrate Nashville go back at least 10 years. And that MLK Day, the sponsoring organization IMF, it's now like Nashville's celebration, so to say. So somewhere along the line, these sponsorships, as we were referring to them, have been legally termed as grants. And so as such, there's another process that we have to do that now.
So are we moving beyond the youth,
It sounds like we've moved to grant authority
No,
update.
but this Youth Poet Laureate is part of why we're here asking for approval of the $1,500, which was a result of the change of what has come. And if Daniel, you wanna add a little to that?
Well, just to the Southern Word, I don't wanna get into the grant authority update, but the Southern Word, it's amazing, you've heard the speakers, but one thing the executive director emphasized, I want y'all to know, because y'all may know already or you may not, they have a year-long program where they meet with youth twice a week, or twice every 2 weeks. And so part of the magic of this program, so part of the reason we support it so much, is not just the culmination of a winner, I guess, so to speak, for Nashville. They also do this for Tennessee. They also have part of a national program that one of their founders was the founder of the Nashville one, Southern Word National. So they're in many, many cities. Is just their ongoing work. They also work with the juvenile justice folks here in Nashville, because it's less of a restorative justice, but it's almost that adage of you do an ounce of prevention to prevent a pound, or ounce of cure to prevent a pound of cure.
Yeah.
You know the phrase. But they do this work that has almost an intangible quality to the good that it produces. And so I just want to emphasize that. As much as we get to enjoy the benefit of seeing their speaker a couple of times a year, there's also hundreds and thousands of lives being touched because of this work, so.
So this grant is it supporting events that we would have?
No, it's supporting their Youth Poet Laureate annual event.
Okay.
So it'll go to program fees, it'll go to some of the work that they do in the schools, some of the work they do.
And we're voting on whether we wanna do this or not? Move to vote on whether we wanna do this or not?
Move to approve.
Move to approve that we do this?
Second.
all in favor of approving that we move on with this work? Unanimous across the board. I will say that the youth speakers at the end of Thanksgiving really are the best final speakers. They're more poetic, poignant, and passionate than the many adults that come before.
I just had a comment. I've been on the website at Southern Word, but where can we see the words that they won? Like I've been through this website and I don't know where you see like the poetry or the words or the spoken whatever.
I don't know myself, the peace commissions and also the work they did for our event. I'm sure there's a way that we can get a copy
I
of
just
that.
think it would be great for the winners to be able to, have like, there's their poem for 2025. So that people could, because it's sort of like promoting them.
Yes.
Sure.
We'll pass that along.
Yeah, I'd put that on my Christmas cards or something.
And a copy of this year's speaker would be great. That'd be awesome. Thank you all. So that's been voted on. Moving on to new business, grant authority update. Here we go, the lawyers are talking.
There you go.
So
Do I need to
relatedly-
scoot back? Okay.
I will say it's been a pleasure to, our finance and operations administrator to kind of take on, update, improve this process. Sometimes when you talk about legal, you talk about HR, you talk about finance and the different subdivisions, it can get kind of complex, but I will say it has been really, really great to see so many experts and all these other departments of Metro really help us out with this process and help us articulate how all this ongoing work that we've been doing for, again, many years before sort of relooking at all of this can continue to exist. So we've been able to do, again, the FILA awards that we're gonna talk about in a little bit, the IMF Human Rights Day, and do Thanksgiving in collaboration with these longstanding partners, only because of, again, the heavy work of Ms. Cockrell and Mr. Garth and people with finance. We also discovered kind of in our history and also with talking to our legal counterparts that when MHRC first got introduced in 1972 or whatnot, there was grant authority, receiving and administering. When we sort of got written out of the, abolished in 92 or 1990, and then we got reconstituted in 1994, 1995, they took out the provision that allowed for that. And I don't really know the history or the politics of why that happened. We only know that it did exist and now it doesn't. Other departments like Parks, other departments like the Parks Department, they have all these collaborations and partnerships where they're doing sponsorships, but they're also doing grants. They're both receiving them and they're administering them. And we know that the mayoral administration this year has really emphasized, they've created some positions in their office to seek out these types of grants to sort of subsidize the work of Metro, but hey, if we can do that on somebody else's dime, so to speak, but consistent with the vision and alignment with the purpose of that department, we should do that. So to that end, we are talking to folks to try to see if we can't reinsert that provision that historically was there, but also is in alignment with our work. If we're doing this work and we're doing it with all these great partners and it's in alignment with the mission and vision of the MHRC, then why don't we have this explicit authority, if not implicit authority that we do sponsorships, but more explicitly to receive, to seek out, and to use those funds to better these relationships and this network of good work that we're doing.
Sounds cool.
And I assume that would require intervention of the council in order to secure that.
Yeah, so just to that point, this process, which is kind of unfamiliar to the MHRC, now that you have approved it, it will go to finance and legal and insurance, et cetera. So, and then council will bring it up for a vote to receive and appropriate the funds that then go to this nonprofit. If we want to do the larger vote change, that also will require a council resolution. So we do want to ask, I think Director Tucker wants to ask the commission to vote on sort of this general, it's not a very specific request, it's more of a general request to start with maybe a year-long process to initiate, consult with, and get advice from various folks to reinsert that provision to allow us to explicitly receive grants and administer them with nonprofits, with maybe put out requests for proposals, et cetera.
And just to make sure, so what we're doing right now is kind of it sounds like it's a Band-Aid kind of solution to allow us to continue to hand out these amounts of monies by improving them at a board level, then providing them to the council then signs off, and then the money can be moved. What we're asking for, hopefully at the end, is for us to have that in-house, that it's just assumed that we are allowed to go acquire grants or distribute grants as we see fit.
This was a heavy lift, so I won't use a Band-Aid. It was
Okay.
a team of surgeons.
Okay,
who did it.
correct.
You're right. You'll see grants that come up and resolutions for grants that are in the millions, and we just approved a grant for 1,500. So if you look at it in the dollars and cents of it, if we had explicit authority to do what we just requested, we may still need to do some of the council resolution process like we just did, but it does create a larger entry point and
Like threshold to where
easier process.
More
Excellent.
autonomy too.
Love it.
Right.
Not to continue with our variety of colorful metaphors, but it sounds like a clear, I mean, we're allowed to act more as a independent financial clearinghouse, both on the receiving and giving out sides of things, seeing what funds are out there that might align with our work, doing the grant work to bring those in, and then dispensing of them back out the door to those organizations that we also see some partnership or coordination of efforts with. Is that fair to say?
I think it'll create explicit language, it'll be clearer, it'll give less angst to our metro departments who say why or how or when it's just kind of written into the code, black and white, without any nuance or reading between lines.
And in addition to that, MHRC has in the past administered grants. This was after the law had been changed. Just not even a year ago, we were asked to administer the violence interruption grant. And as we began that process of due diligence that has to be done to cover all of the steps,
Got halted, right?
this came up again.
Yeah, yeah.
But they asked us because some of them remember that MHRC has administered city grants before. So I think this is a way of, I think someone said it, getting some level of autonomy. Because when we present our budget, they asked us about not just the whole budget, but parts of the budget. This is talked about. I mean, we outlined in our budget presentation all of the organizations that MHRC provides financial sponsorship for. So the budget is approved with these monies in our mind that were allocated for these purposes that now we're having to deal with. Well, hold up a minute. Because you can't do it that way. So this is our way of trying to go through the process that would fix that and fix it once and for all. And I want to give Matt opportunity to weigh in from his always objective viewpoint.
Well, so as it stands right now, the MHRC does not have authority to award grants. The Metro Council does. And so that's why this particular grant that's on the agenda is before you, because the Metro Council is the one that ultimately has to approve it. There are basically two ways that a grant can be approved by Metro Council. One is through the resolution process. The second is through a direct appropriation in the budget. So those are the two mechanisms that grants can be awarded. And I think that's pretty much.
See, and from my non-legal view, the fact that our budget presentation has this as a yearly part of it, but that's not council appropriation.
So can I ask a question about this autonomy, because I see administering grants as being different than receiving grants, or receiving money expected to look for grants. Because eventually a municipal government can say, you have all the autonomy, you're kind of like an NGO, go look for your grants to pay for your salaries and all else. And that puts us at great risk in terms of the time spent applying for grants. We all know that grants are drying up around the country. So that actually leaves us more vulnerable. And so there's a difference between, I think, administering grants from our budget versus then at some point having to rely on grants to maintain staff, to grow staff. And
I didn't get that last part was what we're talking about. I got
this is what I'm asking, because that was mentioned briefly, applying for grants and then administering grants, right?
right, but I assumed they would be grants to the community, like this Southern Ward thing, like, let's say
Right, if that's fine,
Jeff
that's great.
Bezos
Yeah.
is, Mackenzie, what's her name, gives us $1 million, then we can just be like, congratulations, poet.
Right.
Sorry, I can't remember that woman's name, I feel
Mackenzie
bad,
Scott.
thank you. Sorry, Mackenzie.
To your point, Chair, yes, there is a difference between receiving them and administering them. I'm trying to think. We also have a fund that was at the community foundation that her last name was Buell. Iris Buell set up for MHRC. We're able to, I extract, how much was it, 7,000 and some change or something? They have a configuration that they use, and it's a percentage of whatever's in
You
there.
can't touch the corpus, you can only get the interest that's accumulated during the
Yes, and
course
they'll
of the
tell
year.
you what it is. Well, the MHRC went years of not being able to even access those funds. And so even in that, far as receiving, the other end would be, say we are doing this language access study, which Gavin's gonna talk about in a minute. What if there was an organization there that could augment or offset that? Fortunately, we were funded properly, I feel, in this language access to be able to do it in a way that we think is gonna be most beneficial, even if it requires actually hiring individual navigators to actually go out and be gatherers for us. We receive funds for that. But I hear what you're saying, Chair, but I would say, would that be a grant that we ought not apply for if it's something that will augment or supplement our current work?
I just share your concern, Mr. Chair. I think this would have to be so perfectly worded and in whatever resolution, whatever, to make sure that that doesn't happen, that somebody doesn't come along later who was not here when this discussion happened, that they suddenly say, oh, no, wait, no. If the work that you do, you could go out and find grants for. And I mean, you kind of just said that right now about the language thing that that there's gonna be grant.
No. I'm saying, no, Metro funded fully the language access study. I was saying hypothetically, if there was some organization that was offering grants for that type of study or work.
So my concern, I think, is the same that you share, is that they would say, council would say, well, you've got this grant, so we're gonna cut your budget by this amount because you've got this grant to cover it. So good luck and God bless. And that's what, and again, unless it's so perfectly and specifically legally worded that is not what's happening, I think that this is dangerous. That they could start saying that about anything that we're doing.
So we want this
whole
to
lot.
explicitly say that we are not receiving nor administering grants that would supplant ordinary MHRC programming.
Yeah.
But rather, this is a yes and.
And yeah,
Augmentation.
Augmentation.
Yeah. It just needs to, and again, you know, we don't want it to be in 10 years or 5 years when, you know, all this discussion has happened, that suddenly there's people on the council who are interpreting things a little bit differently because the wording is not so perfect and so precise that it is very clear that any grants that we received is not going to replace any existing funding that we have.
Yes. Because we see this in our universities right now, like special education schools and education research, for example. That
And
funding disappeared like this year.
which I can appreciate that. And so as we move forward, we'll be sending you information all along, and it's on you to say stop or move forward. So I would say tonight, Chair, we don't really need a vote on anything. We're gonna put together a more entailed process package of what it would ultimately look like. So we were going to ask that you would approve us to look at this further, but we're gonna look at it further and send you a complete package.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on the administration side of the grant authority, you know, on that subject, do we have sort of standard grant agreements that we have access to that we would use? Because I think, you know, there's certain elements, especially if we're going to let grants to the communities, certain elements that need to be in our agreements with those entities. Limits of liability, grant award amounts, period of performance, on down the line, non-discrimination, other legal clauses. And I think that kind of helps our authority to go down a little easier with like our legal teams and folks in the council and the mayor's office. So do we have access to those? Are we developing those as part of the process?
And those are primarily dictated by legal and finance. There's a series of signatures that have to happen with a package to get to the end, which takes all those things into account.
Okay. So we are going to, you're suggesting that we vote to approve continuing with the process to look into this?
Well,
Do we need to even go on?
I don't
No,
think
come on.
need to vote on
We just continue,
Yeah.
continue and then we approve, or, yeah,
Then when you have
I appreciate the thought that's gone into this and the
Yes.
concept behind it,
yes.
and I appreciate the fears that were also raised, I think everybody's right.
and that's what we want to address in a more concrete manner for you all to be able to look at, what all those things would be.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent discussion. We can move on to the next item, explanation of board member roster. We're at 16, moving on to 17. 16, no.
15.
Okay,
I think there's a song about that.
16.
Thank you.
Just don't-
there is a song about that.
That's right, for
Meeting
meeting
the musical chairs.
Don't do it.
Dave Rosenberg convened a committee almost a year ago at the mayor's insistence to look at how boards and commissions operate. One of the major things that came out of that was the reduction of a lot of boards and commissions as far as in number. We advocated, I think they wanted us to go to 11 or 9 or something. And we fought to stay at 15. We liked 17, but 17 sometimes was seeming to have, the biggest problem was getting quorum. But we haven't had that problem as of late. Thank you, commissioners, very much. So we're down to 15, but there's a process that will take 2 years to get to 15. So we're at 15, we just picked up, well, the process, tell them the process.
It's like a chess match of E6 to E7, but the short version is by 2027, the mayor and then council will also choose one of the expiring terms to not refill. And that will be the way, because I thought, oh, let's just stay at 15, but they already had this sort of plan worked out. And there is a nightmare scenario where because of us trying to cut to 15 too soon, we set it up where the terms won't expire the way they're supposed to. So there are 2 of you who will be expiring in 27, and when that happens, we won't re-up, we won't ask for another appointment.
Looking forward to people's expirations, my friend. Okay, that's,
You have to get that
okay.
phrase, but
All right,
I think I'm on Survivor.
commissions, boards that are way larger than
No.
Is 17 sort of the standard right now?
No.
It's way lower.
Nine to 11 is now the standard.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they were always usually smaller. One of the thoughts that was used is that I think MHRC, the commission, needs to be a representation of the committee in the broadest sense of how we look, how we show up, and all of that. And it's really harder to do that, I think, with a smaller number of individuals. And so hence our argument and Metro's acquiescence to only drop 2 off of us.
all right. Next item on the agenda. Update on process for major events from executive committee. We had an executive committee before Thanksgiving, and we talked about Friendsgiving. It was a successful event from feedback, and thank you to the staff and Edie Tucker for putting on a great event. It was a great turnout, but there was some disagreement, serious frustrations and concerns about some of the speakers that were chosen for the event. We continued with the event, and we've continued, I would like for us to continue talking about the process by which we can change how, especially this key signature event for MHRC, moves forward for next year. So we can learn from this from the past, and to go forward. A couple of things is that we did not have time to agree to disagree or to disagree with each other and talk to each other. To set the agendas, to set the programming, to have everyone look at the programming and the speakers. There was not enough time. And so we have to move forward with a particular process by which the staff, the commission, and the ED all work collaboratively together. And how we do that is a question. And for me, I think that I would like to suggest that, first of all, this should be a signature event. That I think we fund this primarily through us. There are no co-sponsors, unlike some of the other events. And it's a great opportunity for all of us to sit together and come together and bring our families, actually, friends and family, to come together to meet each other. We can't talk because of the sunshine rules. But it's a great occasion to get together. And quite frankly, we need more buy-in from commissioners. Because there were more former commissioners there than there were present commissioners. And so my suggestion is that we have a committee that is formed to kind of look over the programming. You don't have to pick the caterers and the food items. You can if you like, but you don't have to.
If you wanna weigh in.
If you wanna weigh in. But then to have deadlines, because I think we do have enough capacity as a staff now to have hard deadlines by which programming and formatting, the purpose of speakers, do they represent the best of MHRC, the ideals of MHRC? Are we supposed to have a robust debate over some issue? So that is my suggestion. I'm more than happy to open up the floor for discussion about how we move forward. But what I do want to prevent is that there are, as we discuss, I don't want to discuss that much about the events of the past because I'm afraid of personal or ad hominem attacks to speakers. And so I would like to think about the process by which we move forward as a commission, working with staff and the ED to put on this signature event.
Chairman, can I ask a quick, and without, it's very obvious that you're not wanting to relitigate whatever was discussed and the disagreements that occurred there, but being somebody who wasn't there, is there any way for you to give any type of a top over what some of those concerns might have been and why having hard deadlines or things that you were proposing might prevent some of those disagreements or arguments that occurred?
I think that there were some political differences.
Okay.
Amongst commissioners and speakers and staff and ED, right? But there was not enough time and process for us to agree to disagree.
Okay.
Right, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I wouldn't characterize them as arguments. That sounds a little more hostile. I think there was just some strong disagreement.
Okay.
Instead.
Different political convictions. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so,
I just, I think that this is a great learning opportunity for us, moving forward. It's a great opportunity for the commission to develop stronger collaborative partnership with the ED and with the staff and with each other, quite frankly. So I think this is a great learning opportunity and a great opportunity for us to work together to create even stronger, better, more positive events moving forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just for clarity, whatever process or recommendations we come up with here for today, are we saying that's only for the Friendsgiving event, or are we saying that's the way we're gonna proceed?
I would like
It is under major
major events.
Major events,
Yeah.
because I do think that like co-sponsorships, I mean, we can have committees and the executive, the chair appoints committees for different things, but for this purpose, and because this just happened, and all of us are somewhat familiar, I mean, it just happened and it's fresh, and this is our key signature event, that I'd like to focus on this first, to get the process going and see how it goes, and then as we move on. And this is a change for us because the staff we've been operating on a skeleton staff. And now we have more time and leeway and capacity to build in and take in and incorporate different ideas.
And it's a great opportunity too for commissioners to be more invested and have more ownership too in the events, which I think will increase participation in the events. I mean, Commissioner had mentioned that, you know, there were more former commissioners there than current commissioners. I think if we have more investment and buy-in and ownership of the event, that we're much more likely to participate and attend, which I think is really important that the current commissioners are there, so.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, as much as I don't wanna sign anybody up for another committee around here, says the girl who's on no committees. I think that
Chair Pastor.
based on what Director Tucker said in our immediately previous discussion about how you wanted to keep this commission big so that you could have the best representation of our full community. I think that allowing this commission to have more weigh-in when it does come to our front-facing events and speakers and the messages that we're trying to convey, I think that that can only be good. It can only enrich those events. And so while I still don't really understand how y'all get everything done that you do get done, and I have eternal respect for the work you do to put on everything that you do, I think maybe this is a place where you can let us help a little.
Chair, we just need you to name that committee. And I think what we could give you is a backwards planning document with all of the dates and times, and then you can adjust that in the way forward, and we can, you know, help guide you through the process of how to do it systematically to get the result that we want. Because one of the things would be more current commission participation and buy-in, and thank you, Commissioner Teague. I think the idea of disagreement is a better term, because I think sometimes disagreements are healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should not be a monolithic group of folks that see out of the same corner of the world. So I welcome it.
Well, I will wait for the information, and that was the most eloquent volunteer speech for to be on a committee. But I will wait.
I made it a whole year without being on any committees.
Can I second? No, I guess
I will.
I will say that the annual commitment that I have next year that has precluded my attendance for the last 2 years to this event. Actually, we, in the process of talking with Executive Director Tucker, I've already cleared my slate and realized that there's not that overlap
Also
next
on
year, so the date moves.
Another eloquent self-nomination.
I said for the event itself, I do believe, excuse me, good audio video folks in the corner, may we have them go to the tape.
Well, I'd like to, so I will propose this, and if there are any other ideas about how we can move forward, but I will, if people are interested, please contact Brenda? No, not Crystal? Is that?
Oh, Brenda.
Brenda?
Yes, I am.
Okay, or you can talk to me, and let me know, and then we will put it together. Party committee. We had a party committee before.
We did briefly, I
We
remember
did
that.
briefly, but we will have another party committee. So, so if there are any other comments or questions about that, please let me know, and we'll move forward in the executive committee, we'll take this up and put the committee together. Okay.
And by and large, the responses to Friendsgiving that I've received have been overwhelmingly positive. food, the youth poet laureate, she shut it down.
The speeches.
The speeches, all of that. It was overwhelmingly positive.
Thank you. Okay. Excellent. Language access study. Only Gavin puts 5 minutes next to the timeline.
I did not put 5
I
minutes
love
next to the time.
that, but he's got a presentation.
I know.
I do.
Wow.
Yeah. A year ago, Kathy Carrillo and I made a presentation to the department heads about the need for a language access study. And it was from that Mayor O'Connell funded the study for us in this current budget year. And Gavin, this is his baptismal in fire as he was hired immediately to go to work on this. So a lot of his orientation of Gavin into MHRC has been around the language access study. So he's moving right along with it, and here's his update, Gavin.
Sounds good. Thank you all for coming to my baptism. I appreciate it. I spent many years under the baptism.
dress.
Yeah, no kidding. Spent many years under the Community Oversight Board baptism, so I feel like I'm prepared for this occasion. But yeah, just wanted to kind of give an update. This is one of my main responsibilities and one of the main things I've been spending my time on in my first 3 months here at MHRC. So as we wrap up the year, just kind of wanted to give a progress update, particularly since.
Should I interrupt you just?
Oh,
It has nothing to do with
absolutely.
the language access study. This is a shout out to Brenda,
Oh, yeah.
who is our new public information coordinator, which is a new thing for us. And part of that is our branding and all of that. This is her,
Wow.
I mean, it's beautifully
this
done.
is her. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No apologies needed. We needed to call Brenda out for that because this is, it's great. Let's see if this works. Great. So just to orient us very briefly about why we're here and why we're talking about language access, MHRC actually did a pretty comprehensive language access study in 2017. There's a link up there. You can find it pretty easily on the website if you are so inclined. It was a really good report actually in grounding kind of the landscape of what language services Metro Nashville provided as well as the need for language services. So I encourage you to read it if you haven't already. But it, like many reports, kind of just went on the website. There are lots of good recommendations and things that should have been implemented that for various reasons were not. And so we find ourselves here, almost 9 years later at this point, ready to roll out another language access study. I know 2019 does not seem like 9 years ago, but here we are. This conversation also got reinvigorated in 2023 when MHRC piloted a language access program alongside the Tennessee Language Center and 5 other Metro departments. That conversation was then brought to council, to department heads meetings, and was what directly led to the funding of my job and of the language access funds that Director Tucker was talking about earlier in the conversation. So with that in mind, we sought out to kind of modernize and update that 2017 study. We really wanted to evaluate the current language access practices that are under Metro departments, as well as the barriers for residents who have limited English proficiency. And importantly to me, develop actionable strategies for equitable access to Metro services. I don't want this to be a report that, again, just sits on a website and looks pretty. I want it to have real, tangible policy implications because based on the mayor's actions and words, it does seem like we have a favorable administration to really catapult language access into 2025, 2026. And so we do want to take that 2017 report as well as that pilot with the Tennessee Language Center and build on those. Objectives, broadly, we want to just look at the departmental policies, resources, and practices that are available, as well as identifying gaps and barriers in service access, and recommend those practical, scalable improvements, as well as interdepartmental coordination, because there are a lot of Metro departments who are already doing great language access work, and there are a lot of departments who are not doing great language access work, so there must be some sort of interplay between those departments. And we're thinking about solutions about how MHRC can fit into that process broadly. So to get at those, we wanted to do 5 major approaches to our work, and I'll give you kind of a progress update on where we are in those phases and where we're looking ahead in the coming months. Broadly, the 5 phases are stakeholder engagement. We've been meeting really tirelessly with members both within Metro and outside of Metro, across departments, community partners, and language access advocates. We've also been going across Metro to do departmental self-assessments, and what I mean by that is having each Metro department fill out an incredibly long survey that gets really at the granular level of what language access services they're currently providing, as well as the need for each of their departments. Currently in process of consolidating all of that right now. We're also doing a policy review of any department who has a language access policy or has language access policies within, subsumed within other parts of SOPs or policies. We're reviewing that and comparing that against national best practice standards so that for departments who have already done the good work of putting together a language access plan, we can say, great job, and also against the 9 metrics that we are evaluating you against, here are 2 or 3 that you might be able to bolster and make your plan even stronger. The next phase is a community needs survey where we're going to be gathering public input on language access and experiences, both from organizations who work with LEP individuals, as well as those individuals themselves, so they can talk about why they might engage with Metro, how past experience with Metro has gone, what we could be doing better, and sort of the holes that we currently have in our landscape of services. And then finally, we're going to do kind of a recommendations and feedback phase. Once we've intake all the data, done our analysis and some preliminary thinking about what this might mean for Metro Nashville, we're going to then re-engage with those stakeholders who we've been working with at the early stages and make sure that whatever we're proposing is not just, Gavin's ideas on language access or MHRC's ideas on language access, even it's really a community idea on what language access should be. And so we've already knocked out those first 3 phases that you've seen. So stakeholder engagement, I have a whole list of many conversations that I've already had that have been super generative. I believe it's like 20 something meetings that I've had in the last 6 weeks. And so they've been really generative. Many of them began as 1 meeting that turned into 3 more meetings, as any good meeting will do. But it was really to talk about our approach to the work, about why we were making the methodical decisions that we're making, the questions that we're asking, and kind of, as I said earlier, making sure that whatever we do propose is actually a solution that will work for these organizations. We want this to be something that just pick any community organization, they're able to say, yeah, because of that conversation, we're actually able to provide better services for our clients and for Nashville broadly. We've also completed the departmental self-assessments where we asked each department to look in and talk about their language services. We got almost 3/4 of departments to do them, which is no small feat because they are lengthy surveys. And so we have a lot of pretty robust data on that we just finished wrapping up last week. I'm kind of cutting my teeth on the data analysis now, so hopefully next time that we talk, I'll have more numbers and more things to point out, but there's a lot of really interesting stuff that's already coming out of the preliminary work. And finally, we've done the policy review of all departments who currently have language access plans, holding it against that national best practice standards. And the intent here is not necessarily to call out in the final report and say, Department A is doing a really good job of language access, Department B is doing a terrible job of language access. We're kind of aggregating all the results to present in the report. And then the intent is to meet with individual departments and say, hey, Department A, good on you for having a language access plan. Here are the ways we think you can improve what you already have, so that each individual department receives that kind of level of attention without getting called out publicly. I don't think that would be very generative. I should have gone to all these slides, but here's some examples of the organizations that we've been talking with. This is a non-exhaustive list. We've got the mayor's office, the minority caucus chair, Councilmember Toombs, Metro departments, including finance, codes, public health, Turk, Conexión Americas, Nashville International Center for Empowerment, the Tennessee Language Center, and TSU's Intensive Language Center. These are just some of the partners. This is all going to be repetitive of what I just said, so forgive me. I forgot that I had these slides.
So pretty.
They're great. Thank you, Brenda, again. She even did a check. She was like, just so you know, I made some copy edits and I made some things before the presentation tonight, so thank you, Brenda. The next phase of the work and kind of the ask here is this community needs survey. So as I mentioned, the point of it is to gather public input on how folks are engaging with Metro if they have a language need and how that process is going. Currently, we're translating the survey into 10 of the most utilized languages in Nashville. And the plan is to really leverage those community connections that I've been making to try to help blast this out. In addition to a wider network of contacts we've been developing, we recognize that me sending 60 cold call emails to people I've never met is not necessarily the most generative way to get responses. So we are trying to work with those community partners so that they can help blast it out and get more people to fill this survey out. As Director Tucker mentioned, we're also just in the very early phases of considering how to utilize funds to contract with community canvassers or people to get out and help us amplify the work that we've already been doing, because we are a fuller staff, but we all also have a lot to do. So it would be helpful if we can figure out how to use those funds to really amplify this phase. And yeah, the ask is really for you all to help us disseminate the survey among your networks. We are specifically focused on receiving input on LEP people's experience with accessing Metro services. So if you know of folks with limited English proficiency or work with organizations that serve folks, please do help us blast that out. We are in process right now, as I said, of translating the survey. There's some kind of bureaucratic snags that have prevented us from getting that out as quickly as possible. But we're aiming to have a launch date in early January. So just keep your eyes out for that, probably from me within the next couple of weeks. Yeah, and then this is just sort of our ambitious timeline over the next few months. By the end of February, we're hoping to have that community survey launched and get a good data response so that we can do the analysis and the report writing by the end of February and have a draft report and recommendations in the spring, because we are conscious that some of the recommendations we might make might have budget implications, both for us and for the city at large. So we'd like to have this in advance of budget season. And I think that is all my slides. Yes, thank you. That is, thank you for the applause. That is how you can reach me. Obviously, we can talk about any questions you have or anything now, but also feel free to email me or call me and set up a time to talk if you'd like. But yeah,
Mr. Chair.
open the floor, please.
How do you measure the need for language services? I know you mentioned surveys and outreach and a couple other things, but how do you actually measure the need for it? Or do you need to? Or is this, I guess if it's a matter of complying with the law, do you really need to measure it? I'm sensing that we do. How would you measure the need for language services?
It's a good question, and a lot of this stuff is tough to quantify, so it makes sense that you'd have that question. I think the easiest way and work that Daniel actually already did is to understand the budgetary implications of what departments have done. So we have this $10 million pool of language access contracts with a variety of vendors. So Daniel did some work already to kind of code and understand which departments are spending how much money, which is a very clear way to understand they need X number of translations, they need X number of interpreters. But also we're very directly asking that. We're asking people, how many LEP individuals do you get in your office a month? How many of them are deaf or hard of hearing versus how many of them need translation or interpretation? And so we're using that as kind of a proxy to quantify the volume of how much, but it's really hard to quantify, and many departments actually don't do a very good job of tracking that right now. So good question, we're working on it. That's my initial thoughts.
And I also think if we get this robust community engagement, that will go toward answering it. To hear what people have to say about their encounter with Metro as it relates to getting a permit, getting a kid in school, a myriad of things, renewing your tags, all of those things, even down to policing and, what are they doing? And so I think the community input will be huge, and that's why I just want to add a little bit of weight on his request from us and others. We want to get huge, not 210. I would like to get a huge community input from the affected people and those adjacent to those people to talk about in this survey what is their experience as they encounter Metro. How does their language enter into that? And I think that will go a lot toward, just from the community sentiment, that I think it makes our case stronger the larger that pool of people who contribute to it.
And that's a good point. And in the survey, we're also asking the question of, has there ever been opportunities in which you've wanted to reach out to a metro department but haven't for fear that you wouldn't be able to get what you needed, or there'd be too insurmountable language barriers? So having that data as well to suggest that there are a number of people who really want to use Metro but haven't for whatever reason suggests that there's an even greater need than we can quantify right now.
Okay, one more. Does language access also include sort of the other way around? If there are like government employees who want to learn a second language to help them accommodate people in the community, is that also language access? Or is that a thing, or did I just make it up?
Well, it's funny that you should say that, because I think this is something that Metro is trying to slowly come to realize, that many departments have individuals who do speak other languages that are called upon to play in the gap for that department.
Yeah.
But those people are not often compensated for that skill. And so as part of this report, all of that will be a part of that, because we've even talked with folks at MMPS where they'll literally go get a student to come to the phone and actually do the translation for that. So to your point, there's a lot of little things, and to me, when public policy is not good, I don't think we often view it in this way. Bad public policy is always weighed on a person's literal physical body. There's bad public policy around housing. You have people who go unhoused. If there's bad public policy around healthcare, it's born on the people's body who doesn't have adequate healthcare. The same is true about language access for citizens who live here in Nashville.
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to reach out to nonprofits like Catholic Charities, who had a long tradition up until recently of immigration programs and did refugee resettlement for years? When they had caseworkers in the building in Nashville, they had it was like the United Nations. We had people who spoke Swahili, we had of course Spanish speakers, but all kinds of languages. But that's when there was a staff there to answer the phone and to see people at the door or to bring them into the office. Lots of people had many different languages, and now they're all gone because there's no more grant money. It was, you all know. And so that would be an interesting thing for some of these agencies that are used to seeing multiple types of families, multiple languages. And now I would love to know what they're doing over there, because people are still requesting help. I mean, that doesn't stop. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah, they're on the list, and we received similar concern from the person who's connecting us of like, I don't know what they're gonna be able to offer you given how much cuts they've had and that sort of stuff. But yeah, they are on our list.
I would also say too, I think just being realistic about the amount of community participation right now with ICE's presence here in Nashville, that people might not be as willing to share what their needs actually are, just out of fear. So however the report is written up or however the data is being collected, just making sure that that's clear contextually because people are afraid.
No, that's absolutely right, and part of the reason that we're trying to lean on these community partnerships a little bit more. I respect that sending an email with a .gov email right now, especially to many immigrant communities, is not very friendly. So we're trying to lean on the people who have already built that cultural capital, people who they already trust and respect to help us get the message out. But yeah, definitely heard on that.
Thank you, Gavin. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one long-term question on this. Part of this work and the way that you were describing it makes me think of work that I've done with a couple of community advisory councils or boards for that work almost exclusively with non-majority communities. And we would have, for example, offices that wanted to improve their practices would ask to come to us and sort of walk through really kind of get granular with through their check-in process, through the call-in process, what the call tree looked like, right? While that doesn't make sense necessarily for this side, what I'm wondering is outside of, once you have some of this data and information on hand, does the MHRC then become sort of a consulting body for offices that then want to improve their practices so that you or others on staff would then sort of, if an office wanted to sort of walk through in this more granular detail about where known friction points are, where known pinch points are as far as process goes?
Yeah, absolutely, that's on our list. We have a whole slew of policy solutions we're thinking about right now, that being one of them, and that is tied up in budget, of course. So if we could get additional staff to do that, or if maybe there could be additional staff in the mayor's office or elsewhere to do that work, I think that'd be fantastic. But that is one of the long-term solutions we're looking at.
And to add to that, I think right now, the fact that they let language translation contracts, that if they were all spent to the hilt, Nashville would spend $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what that number means. And so hopefully out of this, we can determine what that number means. That may actually, to your point, Commissioner Johnson, is maybe create some level of centralization, some funnel to guide them through. Interestingly, I learned that we had asked the translation service for a translation in Kurdish, and Jahan, who's not here tonight, is Kurdish. And from the translation service, she said that this translation was not right. And so, again, for me, if you do that, you just automatically assume. So I think there'll be a lot of things that will come out of this.
Yeah.
But the major thing that we're hoping to do is do this well enough to get some policy change that will actually become part of Metro Code that would dictate how this gets done. And if that happens, then we think we would have done our job.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on to announcements, there's lots happening over the Thanksgiving holidays about an MOU concerning the Nashville downtown partnership that is controversial and moving ahead. Let me thank Gavin for the presentation. Raising the standard bar, the stash and outfit and all, and Brenda, thank you for the visuals, upping our game on that as well. I know that some commissioners had comments or concerns about this, and I wanted to open up the floor about this issue. And for those commissioners who might not be aware of what's going on, if someone can do a summary of what all is going on.
I'm happy to. On November 21st, the mayor's office filed a resolution that includes a memorandum of understanding between the mayor's office and the Nashville Downtown Partnership, which is the private nonprofit that runs our Central Business Improvement District. Their services include everything from power washing the streets and ambassadors downtown to help tourists and others with things like water, et cetera, to of late employing a private security force called Solaren to engage in some law enforcement activities that may or may not have been appropriate within Metro's understanding of the law. A lot of question marks, but this memorandum of understanding basically allows the Nashville Downtown Partnership to receive a $15 million grant from the state under Governor Lee's $100 million public safety grants program, which was announced about the same time that the National Guard went into Memphis. And the idea is to allow local governments or business improvement districts or those who manage business improvement districts to apply for money so that they can devise and implement strategies to address violent crime, including juvenile violent crime, and supplement existing infrastructure to better fight crime. So what this memorandum of understanding says is that the mayor's office and Metro in general is not going to apply for those funds themselves, so that all 15 million could go to the National Downtown Partnership, and also that they are essentially saying okay to this list of submitted items that Nashville Downtown Partnership has proposed to buy with the $15 million grant, and on the list alongside greater public safety patrols, enhanced public bathrooms downtown, that kind of stuff, more stewardship for the unhoused community down there. Other things that are on that list include and are not limited to an armored vehicle for SWAT team to better access downtown during events or other incidents, major events, and a surveillance system that is not unlike the FUSIS surveillance system that Metro Council voted down almost a year ago today. It will include all of those, it's not FUSIS, it's not from that company, but it will include all of the surveillance camera, screen, giant video wall that law enforcement can track communication between law enforcement and public safety agencies, which probably means some sort of app that could also potentially be accessed by federal branches of government. And effectively, this was all put into a resolution and will be up for a vote on Thursday at the council meeting. It is a resolution, so it has no public comment period, and it only gets one vote. As opposed to the typical public hearing 3 readings structure. So I obviously am pretty concerned by it. The mayor's office, I will say that they have released a statement stating that everything within this memorandum of understanding is already permitted by Metro, and that in fact National Downtown Partnership has agreed to donate the majority of the funds back to Metro. And according to the administration's director of legal affairs, there's been a lot of quote misinformation going around about this. But I still have a lot of questions, and if you wanna read more, there's great stories in the banner and the scene today with reporting on this.
And if I could add to what you were saying, that you may or may not know, the state awarded Downtown Partnership the contract. The MOU, even if it's not passed, they still get the money. I was able to verify that today. So the MOU from the administration's perspective is the guide rails around it.
Right.
But that the contract was already awarded by the state and the money should be in the account by the end of the month.
That's a really important clarification, thank you.
So who is the Nashville Downtown Partnership?
It's a private nonprofit that downtown businesses or corporate interests pay into in order to have this central business district, which again is everything from like power washing and hanging up Christmas lights to administering the library parking lot during the time that it accidentally caught on fire and closed the library.
Is part of this too, isn't there another part that they're trying to expand that district to include the Gulf?
That's separate.
Okay.
There is at the same time, there is separately a push being made for there to be a Midtown business
Okay.
improvement district, which to my knowledge would not be controlled by the Nashville Downtown Partnership, but I don't know the answer to that question.
These are the people who pay for the yellow people who clean the
Yes.
streets.
The yellow people.
Gotcha. I know, I just know that's their most
We gotta come
public
up with a better
face.
name than yellow people.
That's fair, wow, man,
I was about to say.
man, didn't even hear it.
Yellow has been the theme today.
Please. Please.
Okay.
Please, record show they actually wear yellow.
Many people with the yellow vests.
Yes.
Chair, there's also a group that is rarely ever mentioned that is in front of the Downtown Partnership. It's called what is the board called? There's a
Management boards?
Yeah, there's a board that is set up through the state language that contracted with the Downtown Partnership. So you only ever hear about the Downtown Partnership, but there's another agency that stands in between them that actually signed the contract with them, which part of the discontent that came up when all this was discussed was the separation from actual Metro.
Right.
That it's 2 steps away. It's not that Metro is contracting with the downtown.
And before you, I'm gonna let you talk, last thing I'll say is that the downtown partnership throughout the decades-long history of the Central Business Improvement District was supposed to be doing regular accounting to Metro Council about where their funds have gone, and they have never done that.
I like the way you said, I'll let you talk.
Just wanted to get that out of the way, and I'm done.
No, this is, actually, I appreciate the clarifications that fellow Commissioner Pastrick puts before us, as well as Chair Tran and Staff Member Yoon and Director Tucker. Those are all really critical. I will say that I am one of those folks who has a great deal of concern about this, sort of from top to bottom. I know that there are many in the community, as well as more than a few council members who ain't happy about just how that's coming before them. If you go online, it is literally, the MOU is already signed with the mayor's signature. So despite, even with all the other problematic separations of this money from the actual oversight of the municipality, that it came signature ready before the council, shows a certain attitude of preemption to whatever their interests or will might be, which I find really concerning. That it was sort of buried in a sort of holiday news dump on their agendas when it was probably known that neither the council, or hoped at least that the council, nor the public was paying much attention. Is certainly concerning. Who the money is going to is concerning as well. I mean, this is a nonprofit that in the various ways that's already been discussed here is separate from the typical municipal oversight process. And that itself has its own problems, but it's especially worrisome. And I mean, it's worrisome in general, but then it's especially so for a body that has an outstanding investigation about the ways that it potentially mismanaged part of its oversight responsibilities with the damage to a parking garage that's critical for downtown use, as a matter of fact, and something that our citizens greatly appreciate and are missing every day, which is our main library, right? Which still remains closed, the window for which reopening continues to get pushed out. So we don't know when that's going to happen. Then more seriously, there's questions around the work that I think even more directly ties to the work of this body about the ways that this group has used its security, safety, surveillance powers to target the most vulnerable of Davidson County's population, which are those experiencing houselessness. The use of this security force in the ways that good Commissioner Pastrick discusses continues to be of concern to me, even outside of this money. And then with increased money to do that problematic work, I'm not sure how we get around the problematics of that. And then last but not least, we're in a situation where we see that even on minor amounts of money, state grants to libraries recently, piddly amounts of money, has led our Secretary of State to say that they can go around, force those library systems that have accepted that money to close so that their materials can be purged of anything that doesn't align with the state's stances on gender, that falls afoul of its beliefs about the LGBTQIA community, that falls afoul of its concerns about divisive concepts, and that have to be purged from those systems, even for these small amounts of money. What do we think is going to happen with the type of marionette strings that come with $15 million worth of funds to a body that already doesn't have real oversight by this city, by this municipality. How we would put ourselves in a position to allow this type of surveillance, which has been voted adamantly against by this community, as has been pointed out at this table, and then somebody finds this workaround to implement almost exactly the same system to target Nashvillians, those who visit here, those who live here in precarious situations, is absolutely untenable to me. And that we would presume that safety has anything to do with surveillance when we have seen over and over and over again that the very opposite is true, that more and more of us become unsafe, become less secure in our footing in this community and this society because of the ways that we are being surveilled, makes this problematic, this memorandum, this state grant money, the whole thing from top to bottom, deeply problematic to me. And I hope that council voices those same concerns at their meeting on Thursday.
I would guess from my just hearing from various council members where they're at, that it will be deferred on Thursday. Council member Erin Evans was reported in the banner as saying that she asked the administration if they would be adverse to a deferral, and they said that they wouldn't. So, and she's over the committee that would have first discussion on this.
So it may not even make it to the floor. I would hope that they would defer with a public hearing attached, because I think everyone in this community, regardless of where they come down on surveillance, deserves a voice in whether or not we're gonna be surveilled when we go to the Ryman.
Agreed. And and I think that if that's something that we can do as individuals, make that request. But no, we couldn't do that because it has to be on the agenda.
But the executive committees can do things. I just wanna thank everyone for speaking. But again, this question of public safety for whom is a big question that has not been discussed, and I'm tired of the word crime being thrown around when there's no details about what exact crime is to be prevented. Is it public intoxication? Is it sexual assault? Surveillance does not stop or prevent crime.
It's a post facto act in a way.
So we've had these public hearings before about public safety, and again, I think these questions are pertinent again in this context as well, so I appreciate everyone's comments. It's getting late.
One more thing, not to belabor the time, but you mentioned the Midtown thing. We've sent a letter, if you just give Daniel a few minutes, we've asked the sponsor of the bill what we think are some legit considerations. Go ahead, Daniel.
I can't be more eloquent than our commissioner has already been, but just to affirm, I guess, the tenor of what the commission has said, but Director Tucker sort of, ever since the downtown CBID was expanded earlier this year, the introduction of a new Midtown CBID, although smaller, still had these significant concerns of oversight, process, not a condemnation of CBIDs entirely, just the way that the process under which it's being enacted and carried out in Nashville. So that some of the concerns raised was particularly with the private security companies being used, where more than 34% of their budget is being allocated towards what they're terming safety, but in actuality tends to be, as the scene reported, unconstitutional and policies inconsistent with that of our own MMPD, because they're utilizing off-duty highway patrol officers and post-certified, but not necessarily local MMPD officers. We're also looking at the failure to oversee them in actuality over the past decade or more, although that is part of the named statute process. The investment priorities, while not a decision of the downtown partnership, just the notorious nature of the way they remove benches in that area of town. That was another Metro decision that impacts people in our community, particularly the vulnerable ones. And finally, the makeup of these boards. That is the governing body of the Downtown Partnership or whatever nonprofit agency that actually carries out its work and its relationship to Metro government. So I can't take credit for all of this. Again, Dr. Tucker, the commission has named a lot of these. Several council members have named potential solutions, guardrails, and limitations that can be placed on here as suggestions and solutions to some of these equity concerns. But we are watching, we are listening, we are participating in this process, and we did send this out to the full council and the mayor's office too.
And out of this, the sponsor met with us early in the morning to talk about our concerns and his commitment to seeing that they be addressed as the Midtown Partnership moves forward. So we're gonna hold their feet to the fire as it relates to it. And can we send that letter to all the commissioners, please?
I mean, that's my own direct neighborhood, and I've been to some of those meetings, and I think it's a privatization of our public sidewalks, streets, benches, whatever you wanna call it. The taxpayers, children, kids from the neighborhoods deserve to be, not the patrons of these businesses. So the layers of this not-for-profit versus contracting versus municipal governments, there's no accountability, and that's the process by which this is happening.
If this was a great thing for Nashville, they wouldn't have snuck it into the holiday news, John. There would have been a press release.
Yes, thank you all for that. Moving on to the announcements.
Please allow me to stop.
Yes. First of all, before we get to the announcements, please mark your calendars. We would like for more commissioners to come to these events. Is someone supposed to talk about these?
Yes, that's me. I got the first two. I'll start with the Philo Words, which is listed second, just to go in chronological order. So the Tennessee Local Food Summit has their 15th annual conference this Friday, and that first day is the Philo Words, which MHRC has been a long-term supporter of. And the gist of the Philo Awards is focuses on celebrating people who use food to work towards justice and build community. So they've been working through this whole process, and they'll have some nominations. Davey is scheduled to, Executive Tucker, apologies,
Davey's fine.
Davey
And
is
let me just
scheduled to
say,
speak.
this is a former in our own council commission member, Whitney Patrick, is a former Fowler Award winner.
No, I got nominated, I didn't.
Nominated.
You didn't win?
No.
I was sitting there.
Are you still bitter about it?
Wow.
No, it's fine. You know,
Alright.
I just saved Nashville.
What time is that event? And where is it, Brenda?
I'm sorry, what?
Where and when?
Okay, yeah,
What time?
it is at Tribeca Nazarene Church, and it is at 5:30. And I can follow up with all these details tomorrow morning and links to some of the things that we mentioned tonight.
I've got my tickets, do you? I do have my tickets.
Alright, and then the next one is next week on Wednesday, which is, I believe, International Human Rights Day. The Tennessee United for Human Rights Award, which is like a small local nonprofit, each year has a celebration for human rights organizations or nonprofits and advocates for this event. And MHRC has participated in the past along with like Scarrett Bennett Center, the Church of Scientologies, and others. So we are supporting the event with the purchase of food and beverage up to $1,200. The event will be held at the Church of Scientology on 8th Avenue South. The cost of attendance is $10 per person. And this year they are celebrating a few people, including Albert Bender, Brenda Haywood, Cheryl Allen Huff, Kelly Chiang, and former Commissioner Jermaine Cole. So that one is Wednesday. And then
What time is that?
I need to double check the time, but it's in the evening. I believe around 5:30, but I can. And then David has details on MLK Week.
We'll send you out the info, because it's a whole week of events that lead up to convocation at Tennessee State University. The march from Jefferson Street Church to Tennessee State. There's also a labor breakfast. There's a teen and youth event. There's several other events, and as they finish them, we'll send you the whole list of events that make up that MLK celebration.
Okay, make sure you work on the weather, not feasible.
Not doing that again.
Excuse me?
Please work on the weather.
Oh, I didn't have anything to do with that.
Okay.
Two things before, some of you, have received, calls or emails from a potential, Title VI complainant. And those of you that, he's gotten in contact with, he can be kind of brash. I sent out the email, to address that. But as you've also seen, the complainants of the first Title VI complaint have filed a new complaint. We're processing that. We sat and met with them to go through the new complaint. We're running it through the same process that we ran the first one through, and then we will respond to it. The conciliation agreement lasted only for a year. And so it's not binding to current things per se. But we're going through it to see if there are any Title VI violations that are contained in there, and we haven't got to that point yet. You wanna add something to that?
No, just.
Can we?
Motion to adjourn?
Can we see complaints as they come in, or is any of that public facing?
I don't think that would be totally appropriate for a couple of reasons. One, this commission would be tasked with objectively hearing a Title VI complaint if it got elevated to the point of a public hearing. And we treat them as confidential to a point where the confidentiality is no longer part of it. Particularly, I would say, I'd say 95% of Title VI complaints are not Title VI complaints.
So confidential until public hearing if it gets.
Well, or until it gets a full-blown complaint.
Okay.
And then it becomes a thing. But more often than not, like I said, I would say 95% of all complaints turn out not to be complaints.
Motion to adjourn?
Well, yes, but we will see you in 2026, commissioners. Is our first meeting January 5th, right after that?
Yeah,
And we're not messing around.
on Monday, invite going out, confirming location.
Someone else do it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in disfavor? All right, we're adjourned. Let's go. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.